babies, when they're young, you'll see that a lot of them look similar. Almost all of them share the characteristics because they're fat and pudgy, the baby fat, where this is guarding the bones that they have because their bones are not yet solidified. They're like little rubber bands. It's like someone who doesn't drink enough milk and doesn't have calcium. Their bones are bendable, almost like chicken wire, but it's occurring natural. So how could it materialize if you were to scope out an entire garden and you could pick out, well, which one is the rotten egg? And one thing you need to do when you're getting a bridge is to have the support on either end, or else it'll capsize in the middle. Hell, I've had a pet rock before, and I thought that that was par of the course. Going into its end stage very quickly. The same with a fetus. You know, if this was fetus, it was alive and then it died, everyone dies. So like this fetus, when it is aborted, it's ending its life cycle just extremely fast, like an inflation. Things that are starting and ending, well, they seem very apparently congruent. It wouldn't be reversing, it would just be like aging really quickly. So it's getting alleviated from all the bad stuff that it has in it. And when it gets rid of that, the baby gets hit with chemicals, and then, or the fetus gets hit with chemicals, and then it like gets sucked out of the body, or it just turns into liquid, and then it is disposed out that way. I had the choice of doing that. Wouldn't you choose to do that? It's just me like saying, I would rather like to go to a farm and pick out onions and be able to step on the ones that I saw were bad because they're easily to pick, like a pumpkin that has decomposed, and then encumbering that if you were stepping on them. And if you could step on all of them, only the bad ones. Almost like when you can trick a dog by, if you hold your hand like this and you're shaking it like you're going to throw them a treat, they pay really close attention to your hand because they think that you have a treat. And so rerouting and bypassing thresholds, they can be done if you have camouflage and an exoskeleton or something with the pharaoh snakes. What the hell is this? I've never seen foliage until caterpillars look like they're shedding. Well, these kind of look like the pharaoh snakes. I'm scared to touch it, but if the white stuff was like heat, the tablet would be pushed out into the pharaoh snakes on the little crevices, because that's how that snake works on the tablet. As it's burning and it's hot, the snake is like wiggling because it's getting pushed off its corners, and the hot edges are pushing upwards because heat release is going up. I'm always dealing with stuff in the winter. I couldn't park in my spot because there was snow everywhere, but now in the spring there's dirt because they're having a truck pull it. If it were not of a certain constraint, they're getting bogged down, and it will last a few months. It's like a henna tattoo where it starts to fade out. And this is more example if we don't understand that yet. And part of the reason why Lewis and Clark were so good was the first thing they did when they got here is they established land, and they are showing where to go and how it's done. The thing about Betty Ross is so great because she invented the circle star on the flag. And usually when you see a circle, you'd think that it cut too many corners and that its shortcuts made it bland, because circles are the same all around. But when you get fiber optic cables, look at this ding-a-ling. Do you know what's going on in this sucker? Quite a few ding-a-lings ringing. Quite a few rings of a ding-a-ling. And I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but if you have just enough transmission, you'd be surprised what you can do with it. And so it's like the three little pigs when they're building the house, and they're just telling each other, this can't break. It's like, I just gotta lay all this out because I almost even wasn't here. Adaptations are things that a lot of animals have succumbed to advance their species. Because the early scientists were taking apart these solid structures and just naming them with anything that came to mind. So when you're thinking of a hamstring, well, this is like a pig is a ham. Well, a pig's a ham if it's on its gluteus maximus. And then a string, of course, we all know what a string is. If you have a ham and a string, but then you name it on the area near your groin, what do we think? What are we doing here? This was the scientist walked into the room. He said, "This is now a hamstring." The whole group was like, "Okay, well, what are we doing here?" This is within hair. Your cuticles, they'll fall out, but they'll still. This is what's called a receding hairline, and like if Joe Biden, he gets like the hair that falls out, and you can put in hair plugs into the little pits that are little indents in the scalp where the hair used to be. So that's the area for the insert. The one way of doing that is, you know, plugging it in and then getting the bridge. You're doing the similar aspect where you're covering the area with an overlay. And that is a train. The train, of course, runs on tracks, where the tracks are made for the train to have wheels that have little round things. It's kind of like a tire. If you pop your tire, you're going to be riding on rims. And what a train has, it rides on rims on the rails. And that's how it's ordered to get motion from the locomotion. Like a radio could be turned into a phone if you know how to fasten the receiver correctly. And this is where I don't want to get outsmarted, so I'm trying to understand easier ways of gaining access. Where anytime I record something and I'm in front of a TV, the show owner will correlate through AI and shut the sound off. And the sound isn't even compressed right when it's uploaded anyways. It sounds like I'm underwater, or it will get disjointed sometimes. I'm only ragging on this because this is Burton, okay? There's a snowboard company named Burton, but these guys have access to call themselves the same thing with zero repercussion. Why am I so scared to even record something in a video and have it be another video and I get penalized for it? But we've got people making stuff that it should flat out copyright prima facie on its face. And it's widely accepted through the most legal aspect of getting the priorities and the property IDs for making a company. Why are they allowed to do that openly? I'm not crossing the road. Hell no. The sign doesn't even work properly. And perhaps with the onion garden, you're asking the wrong question, where you should be looking closer at the soil. I know you can garden things, and they can be in hydroponic systems where instead of like granule dirt soil, you use like volcano rocks we were looking at earlier. So if we're going for the target goal of stomping on the bad onions and they're turning up like solid tablets, it wouldn't be any surprise to see that the garden would ostensibly start out to look something like this area, which I'm questioning if is even public or is this property of the bar, where we have a restaurant who has secluded their designated area with a gate saying that they own the sidewalk because they have it gated in. I'm left to question if this is an area that has been owned by this establishment to my left.